Hello, welcome to Movie Umpers. My name is Bob Sham.
My name is Angela.
And we're in the holiday season. And last September, we hit on a special day. A day that I, if I'm being completely honest, don't really care about. But we used it as an excuse to discuss a certain franchise. And last September, we discussed the first 6 films in the Friday the 13th franchise because that was the last time that it fell on a Friday the 13th. And when we went through those movies, we came to the conclusion that those first 6 movies were okay in the sense that Friday the 13th kind of wobbles in the mid-range, at least in those first 6, right?
Absolutely.
And I don't think we hit any Fs when we did that. So. I think it didn't go lower than a D. And the average for the franchise at that point was a C. When we did the first 6 of Halloween, it was like starting off really strong, and then it went down, and then it went up, and then it went real hard down. The 6-pack episodes, like the one we're doing today, those are the episodes you want to listen to if you want to hear us shit on movies, or if you want to know what's padding out the D's and the F's. As far as the tentative compliment that I gave the Friday the 13th series in terms of at least maintaining a middling goes out the window for this for the last half dozen that we're going to do for this December edition of Friday the 13th. We are wrapping up the Friday the 13th franchise. You have any words you want to say regarding what we're going to get into here?
These are sci-fi films.
One is definitely like a sci-fi horror. They're all like fantasy-like, right? We'll go through the list. Part 7, Part 8, Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, Freddy versus Jason, and then they revamped the franchise in 2009.
They rebooted. It's not a remake.
With Dean from Gilmore Girls. And he's also in that Supernatural show, which is very popular.
I still prefer Jesse.
I think most people land on Jesse because he's hunkier. But from what I can see, that's the only one Rory didn't sleep with, which is wild. Dean was just a little boring. He was sweet. Logan is the one she ends up with.
I feel the worst for Logan.
That's true. He got jerked around a bit. We were supposed to hate. Logan's one of those guys that's like when you see them, like when I was in school, and you'd see the jocks and stuff and the preps, and some of them were dicks, but I kind of hated them in general when in reality, most of them didn't do anything to me.
Sure.
Logan is kind of like that guy. Like you see him, you're like, I hate that guy. But then you're like, well, he didn't really do anything. I mean, he's rich, I guess. But well, that's our Gilmore Girls corner. And we got a lot to talk about. Now, when our 6-pack episodes, we have a limited amount of time that we always overrun on. And then after that, we give our score for the movie and then hit the trailer for the next one, talk, and we're doing 7 minutes for the last 6 Friday the 13th movies in the franchise. So we're without further ado,
this is the one you've been waiting for.
What's happening to me?
Your psychokineses and these delusions.
You're not listening to me!
The one you've been asking for.
Hey, Tina, isn't this the way they wear their jackets back in the mental hospital?
Concentrate. Concentrate, Tina!
The one you've been dying for.
You people give me the creeps.
Okay, you big hunk of a man, come and get me!
Jason is back. But this time, someone is waiting.
Jason?
Tina, don't go in there!
Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. Opening Friday, May 13th, the deadliest day of the year.
There goes the neighborhood.
Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, 1988, directed by John Carl Buechler, written by Manuel Fidelo and Daryl Haney, starring Lar Park Lincoln, Kevin Blair, Susan Blue, Terry Reiser, Elizabeth Catan, cinematography by Paul Elliott. Most of the actor name we read for these, except for the ones that started out and got famous later, you're not going to know who any of these fucking people are.
No.
Except for Jared Padalecki, who played Dean in Gilmore Girls. But that's later. We're talking about Part 7 here. And, of course, these all kind of blur together, right? So I'm thinking here, we got Jason. He's back. You remember in 6, he was under the water, chained up, left in the lake. And now we got a girl with superpowers.
She's got telekinesis.
Yeah, her name is Tina.
Tracy.
It's Tina Shepard.
Is it Tina? Sorry, my notes are wrong.
Yeah, throw your notes out.
I took notes, though.
This is also the first of the Kane Hodder Jason Voorhees.
Yeah, he plays him for, at least 3 movies.
The next 3.
Yeah.
He's the most known for being Jason, but the Jason movies that he's in are like the shittiest ones.
Yeah, this one, you get Tina as a little girl. She gets mad at her dad because he hit her mom and goes out into the middle of the lake and with her mind kills her father.
Tina!
I hate you! I wish you were dead! John! I wish you were dead! Daddy, no!
I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry.
Because she makes this, what is that called? It's not a pier when it's a lake. Anyway, she makes it fall and he dies.
And so now, years later, she's come back to Camp Crystal Lake with a psychiatrist and her mom, because why not? She's got to deal with this trauma of losing her father.
They're not at the camp. They're at the house they stayed in when she was a kid, but they're at the lake. The doctor says he's there to help her, but you find out very quickly that he is video recording her, and his plan is to make a documentary about her.
Because she's got superpowers.
He's trying to make her mad so that she'll react, because she only reacts in very strong emotion.
She's also staring at Crystal Lake at one point and wishing that her father would come back. But who comes back instead?
Jason.
It didn't make sense that Jason would have to come back, because the ending of 6 was so soft. Like, he's still all there. He's just in chains floating in the water. I would have just made him like break free and just be free, but we had to have her, like, it doesn't make sense that she's wishing for her dad. Like, she's a god, apparently. Oh, and of course there are some young adults that have arrived at the camp that she's interacts with, and they're all fodder for just being completely fucking killed.
And there's the nice guy that likes her and the bitchy girl that doesn't want him to like her, and then everyone else is just kids.
I think there's so many people die in this particular one. I feel like this movie is trying to be different from its predecessor in that it brings back, nudity.
Mm-hmm. A lot of nudity.
A lot of nudity is back. In the 6th, there was none. And then it's just like double the kills that we probably saw in the previous movie. Like, he really runs through them all. He has a weed eater with a buzzsaw on it.
Yes.
And which is, we were watching that. I was like, is that a real thing? Can I buy that? No, I don't think that.
I don't think so. It because we have a friend with a chainsaw on a stick. But they also find out that she's seeing things. And some of it's the doctor fucking with her, like leaving a knife somewhere, and then she goes back to show him and it's not there, and that's him. But aside from that, she is seeing people die. She knows when these kids are being killed.
Sure, she could see the future. She could see the future in
yeah,
flashes.
So
she sees her mom die in the woods, and they all run off to. People got to go find her, and there's this one cute boy that likes her. He dies.
They end up running around together.
We defeat Jason. Telekinetically collapses the house on Jason, and then Jason gets by the docks, and then she collapses the docks, and then he goes under.
He starts to like rise back up, and then her father leaps out of the water and grabs Jason and brings him back under the water and pins him under the fallen deck.
Even in light of the fact that we're dealing with Superpower Girl, I wasn't like mad at most of this movie, because I appreciated how straight up slasher it was. Like I accepted it. It's what this series does.
We want to see teenagers who are fucking get murdered.
And it looked good, a lot of the slashing, but then I'm living with the fact that Tina's got to have superpowers because it's like, sure, this is the 7th one. We've got Undead Ghoul Man who comes back all the time. We'll let the bitch have fucking telekinesis or whatever. But then her dad pops out of the water to resolve the conflict. Why didn't it look like, you'll remember in, of course, when Jason comes out of the water, it's reminiscent of that from the first one. And a few ones later, we had a lady, I think it was like 3 or 4, where it had his mom come out of the water and grab her. But it was Aunt Voorhees because his mom got her head cut off.
But she looked decomposed.
Why not make her dad look fucking decomposed?
Because ghost dad.
It's
got to be a ghost because he looked exactly like when he died. He was wearing a white shirt.
Poltergeist kind of scenario.
I think her ghost daddy came back to save her. There's no other way. They had to have pulled his body out and buried him. They're not going to just leave him. He's not Jason.
Imagine you're a ghost and you're stuck in the lake where you drowned.
You're just walking around on the bottom of the lake.
Just walking around the bottom of the lake.
Avoiding the creepy man chained up across the way.
That's the only thing you got to interact with is the ghoul man in the hockey mask. But yeah, he pulls Jason down and all the rubble and stuff is on top of Jason.
Unbelievable. Jason's too strong for that shit.
He can't go anywhere. He can't go anywhere, Angela.
Okay.
It's just how it is, okay? Also, he goes dormant again or some shit or something like that.
Her mom is dead too.
Yeah, she gets killed. She sees her mom get killed and then...
Does she even have the guy at the end? Is this the start of couples at the end of the movies?
The psychiatrist... No, he dies.
Oh, he definitely
dies.
Die. He's a bad guy. They start ending in pairs.
Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. It's, I think it just sneaks over mid. It's a weird-ass ending and a weird-ass way to make Jason come back because, like, it seemed like he was just dormant or something. But everything else was all, like, it was a better one than we'd seen in probably the previous 3 movies. So I'll give it that. So I'm going to go to 2.75. This one is at least more fun in a sense.
Yeah, I'm going to match you.
And it hits a C. Friday the 13th, Part 7 is a 5.5. Part 7, The New Blood, directed by John Carl Buechner, 1988, is in between the movies Epidemic by Lars von Trier and Under the Shadow by Babak Anvari. And let's move it along to Friday the 13th, Part 8.
Part 8. Jason takes Manhattan. Now, New York has a new problem.
Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan from 1989. Directed by Rob Hedden. Written by Rob Hedden. They let that guy write it, too. Starring Jensen Daggett, Scott Reeves, Barbara Bingham, and other people you don't know. And Kane Hodder as Jason Voorhees. Cinematography by Brian England. This movie was notoriously bad in its day, and I can go ahead and say that this is the shittiest one.
Yes.
Some might pick... I think it's a toss-up between Jason X and this one. But I think this one is just complete fucking dog shit. And the shot choices, the cinematography, there's just something about the way the whole thing is filmed that seems to make it seem even dumber than these movies already are.
I agree.
That they have a yacht, like a cruise ship, that can access the riverways from the Atlantic Ocean all the way into Crystal Lake in New Jersey.
Absolutely. So there's a smaller boat at the beginning on Crystal Lake, and this couple, they're gonna fuck. So it wakes up Jason, and he kills them both, and he gets his mask again because the boy was trying to scare the girl by being Jason.
Well, the way he gets resurrected is they drop anchor, real shitty anchor, and it tears into a power line that's running exposed under the water, and it electrifies Jason, who's trapped under the rubble,
and gives him the strength.
And he gives him the strength to get out of the rubble, and then he climbs onto the boat, and yeah, he kills the couple. But another like yacht of these are people who just graduated high school.
I don't think they've graduated yet.
It's like a senior trip.
Yeah.
But their professor is there. I swear that they've already graduated. I swear.
I just assumed they were still in school because if you've graduated, why are you under the care of your teacher? 2 teachers are there. So it's 2 teachers and all the seniors in this high school. And they're going on a cruise from the Crystal Lake area all the way to Manhattan.
Which is known for years worth of mass murders at this point.
Absolutely. And while they're boarding this cruise ship, what do you see in the background but that dinky little boat that was in Crystal Lake has now come up the river and hits the dock right beside this boat, only seen by one old man.
And so, yeah, it's time to go from the lake to the rivers that you're used to and into the Atlantic Ocean because we do get to Manhattan, but the majority of this is Jason sails to Manhattan.
It's like a sixth of Manhattan.
Who's our final girl?
Our main girl is Rennie.
Rennie Wickham, played by Jensen Daggett, and she's
scared of water.
Yeah. And of course, the main girl is often, especially in this one, like not the hottest one. The hotter one is the girl that plays the guitar.
Aw, man, this place is aching for a video.
But her death scene, she goes to have a private spot to play guitar, and she's playing it here. And this is an example of just not knowing, like, don't do the shots that demystify your monster. We get a shot of him, like, Jason walking down these steep steps.
It's so bad.
And the way it's framed, he's, like, looking down, like, he's like, I'm coming. And it's like, there's no, like, there's nothing scary about it whatsoever.
And she's the first kill, so the hottest chick dies immediately. Yeah. And she's basically in a Freddy-like boiler room under this cruise ship. She's in an enormous space.
But wait, Rennie, our final girl, is psychic or something. She can hear Jason's inner child. She can sense.
She can. She's having these visions of him as a little boy. And she sees him as like a regular little boy.
Bullshit.
And then she sees him as a deformed little boy after he's been in the water for a little while.
One of the only scary things in this whole movie is when she has the vision of him, deformed version, swimming up to her, touching her. Like, that was actually scary. But everything else is like stupid as shit. And of course, everyone but the annoying narc-ass teacher, principal or whatever, who is like, why is he on this cruise? He doesn't need to be here. This isn't like a whole class is on this ship here.
This is why I know they haven't graduated. Or at least their grades are not final. Because there is a bitchy popular girl who has the nerdy boy videotape her trying to seduce that teacher, and he gets on the bed with her and she's like, what do I get for what's my grade? And he's like, okay, you get an A, because she's blackmailing him.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Well, he did like make out with her for a while before he was like, oh no.
He's gross.
And the camera boy's the nerd of the movie. You always got to have a nerd. And he's talking to the hot girl that plays guitar, and like, but he's talking about another girl, like he wants to get with
the girl who seduces the teacher,
the shitty girl. And when like he's got the hot guitar girl, like giving him the time of day. They're
probably best friends since they were children.
Stupid.
Also, Rennie's dog is on this boat, and I don't know why.
Jason kills a lot of people with a spear gun.
The shitty teacher is her uncle, and there's also a boy on the boat that They like each other, but the uncle thinks they should not be together. And the one grown woman on the boat, I don't understand her relationship. I think she's another teacher, but she's closer to Rennie than her uncle is.
Oh, and one of the boys is supposed to become a ship captain like his dad was.
His dad is the captain of this ship.
There's so much fucking going on here.
Really insane. There's some girls doing coke downstairs.
The most normal part of the movie.
Yeah, and there's a dance party room
that no one is dancing in, but people also, Jason seems to disappear in front of people and reappear. He seems to have like these small teleportation abilities here.
How did he get from that boat onto the ship? He teleported, I guess.
Well, there's a scene in the dance hall where like she's looking at him or whoever's down there, and then he disappears,
and then he's
behind, and then he's transporting into like ship cabins while people are running away from him from another direction. And there's a fire on the boat, and of course it sinks the boat, and there's like 3 survivors left. They go into Manhattan, and there's this played for laughs scene where what do you want in a Jason Takes Manhattan? Him walking down Times Square, lopping people's heads off. But no, we get these weird, like, people with these one-liners.
You a dead meat slime bag! Yo, man, it's cool. It's cool, man. It's cool.
Most of the time he's at the docks when they arrive at Manhattan, and then they're in Manhattan.
You a dead meat slime bag! Yo, man, it's cool. It's cool, man. It's cool.
And how do they even fucking kill Jason? I forget. Oh, toxic waste. Burns him down to where only his inner child is left.
Literally a dead child is laying in the sewer underneath Manhattan.
Toxins released, burn Jason away.
The premise of why she's connected to his inner child and why she's scared of water is because that when she was little, she has a flashback, she was in a boat with her uncle, and he was trying to teach her how to swim, and she was scared, so he threw her in Crystal Lake, and she almost died in the lake with baby Jason. So that's why they're psychically connected.
But we didn't know that for a long time, so it's one of those scenarios where we're annoyed that she keeps bringing something up that there's no detail
also,
for.
Her parents are dead, but it's not that.
All right, 1 through 5 each, best out of 10. I give this a 0.25. I think this is one of the worst movies we have done for the show.
It's definitely an F, but I'm going to give it a 0.5 for the dog and the old man who tried to fucking tell those bitches to watch out.
They never really kill the dogs, not very often. This is the highest budget so far that we've had for a Friday the 13th movie, which is wild because it looks so fucking cheap. And the next movie, the follow-up here, looks better in terms of effects. Got a lower budget than this one. Oh, there's a beheading scene that looks so much like a mannequin head.
Take your best shot. Motherfucker.
Yes.
And then they show the mannequin head later, and it looks so fucking fake.
It's terrible.
I looked up Rob Hedden. This is like the only thing this guy ever did, and you made a piece of shit, Rob Hedden. Friday the 13th, Part 7, Jason Takes Manhattan, is in between A Christmas Melody by Mariah Carey and the first Rob Zombie Halloween.
Appropriate.
It is a shitty movie. It sucks. Next up, a little bit better, but still, what the fuck's going on? Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday.
Horror has many faces. Death wears many different masks. But pure evil wears only one. And this is your final chance to see it. Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday.
Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday from 1993. This is it. Directed by Adam Marcus, written by Dean Lorey and Jay Hughley, starring the people you don't know, such as John D. LeMay, Car Keegan, Aaron Gray, Kane Hodder's, Jason Voorhees. Cinematography by Bill Dill. Good old Bill Dill.
This is another one where the most beautiful person in the movie dies near the beginning. Jason is alive. They tried to kill him. And there's this, they set a trap for him.
This is, if you're wondering why is there not some kind of military branch coming to Crystal Lake and taking this fucker out? Well, this movie actually answers that question. They use this lady as bait, and she herds Jason out to this open field, hit the lights. There's a bunch of dudes in fatigues. They shoot him like 200 times. And then they blow him up into smithereens.
His body is in pieces, and they get taken to the morgue, and the man in the morgue becomes
the coroner, basically, yeah.
Yeah, the vessel for Jason.
By eating his heart, because it's like his heart is what's left. And so he eats the heart.
The heart's alive.
And then he embodies Jason.
So Jason's spirit and heart is now inside of this man.
But there's got to be something that makes it more permanent to bring Jason back.
He needs a Voorhees. So in this movie, we find out that Jason had a sister. She still lives in Crystal Lake. She had a daughter, and that daughter has now had a baby. So we now have 5 generations of Voorheeses. And so there's this bounty hunter trying to find Jason because he got away, and he's working his way back towards Crystal Lake on a killing rampage as different people. And he can only do it for so long. If that body dies and he hasn't moved into another body, it could kill him.
And a guy who knows all this is a dude played by Stephen Williams named Creighton Duke.
Sticking a hot dog through a donut.
Do we have any backstory on that guy whatsoever? He's just a dude that comes along in a hat.
He's an insane bounty hunter.
Why don't you blow me, Chief? Right after your girlfriend there gets through.
That's my lady you're talking about.
Well, now, see, she is only your lady because she ain't had a taste of the Duke yet.
Damn it!
Careful, Chief. I don't think you really know who I am.
But he knows all this information. He knows everything about the Voorhees.
He's obsessed with Jason. He knows and eventually tells that the thing about Jason is Jason was born of a Voorhees. He can be reborn through a Voorhees, just in the vicinity of them, I guess. And he must be killed at the hand of a Voorhees.
I guess it makes a little more sense than the rune shit in the later Halloween movies.
I guess so, yeah, because that got kind of...
At least there's a lineage, but it's like, culty. Why does fucking Creighton Duke know everything about this? And he tells that information to this dude who's trying to protect Jessica Kimball, who's Jason's niece or something.
Yeah.
And he breaks this guy's fingers and tells him all this information.
The breaking the fingers is payment because he doesn't have any money. He's like, well, if you want to know info, it's got a price. And he's breaking this dude's fingers.
Like, why is it such a secret?
And also, this guy could be useful to you. He could help you break out of prison, maybe.
And does Creighton Duke get killed by Jason Voorhees? Yes, he does.
Yes, he does. The one who's the most beautiful one that gets killed early is his sister.
Oh, Leslie Jordan is in this.
Well, hello, pilgrims.
Leslie Jordan.
Diner chef.
Daddy, watch me twirl. Daddy, watch me.
A diner chef.
There's a baby, of course.
And there's a baby. We talked about the baby. At some point, the bounty hunter has been offered $500,000 to kill Jason by this guy who has this investigative,
like a speculative
exploitative show.
Yeah.
And he's also dating the niece of Jason Voorhees. And so he comes back to Crystal Lake with her when her mom is dead. She has the baby. The ex-boyfriend's there. And she gives the baby to her friend. They hide it in the diner. She eventually believes the boyfriend, and they gotta try to kill Jason. The bounty hunter helps her. They go to the Voorhees house.
So the coroner keeps it starts with the coroner after Jason gets blown up, eats the heart, and then he throws the heart up into other people's mouths.
He throws it up into the sheriff at one point who's dating his sister, so he kills her that way. Then that's why the boy gets arrested, because he's in the house. And then he goes through a bunch of people. There's a point where you don't know who Jason is. Like, whose body is he in right now?
Jason finds the body of his sister, and the creature, he can fully become Jason from that point. So Jason Voorhees is completely back.
There's also a magic moment where the bounty hunter's trying to convince the woman that she can kill him, the niece, and he throws a knife at her, and when she grabs it, it turns into this very fancy
a ritual knife.
Oh my God. She has to use it to stab him in the heart in order to kill him.
They really sell Creighton Duke like a badass, but he doesn't really, when he's not breaking people's fingers, he doesn't really do that much other than provide information.
He says crazy shit.
Sticking a hot dog through a donut.
Yeah, he's insane. And again, why the connection to the Voorhees is like, why does it matter that he's a Voorhees? I guess it's like anyone else would have just died in Camp Crystal Lake, but he's a Voorhees, so it's special. Hence the magic dagger and the lineage and this
I guess the Voorhees love each other in a way that is stronger than other families.
Well, I mean, Jason's mom's a great character, but yeah, it makes like, why is Jason even going to hell, right? So they utilize the dagger, and Jason gets stabbed in the chest, and we get demons pulling him down. But he's
giant demon.
But he's an unthinking ghoul. That's how I always like. Jason is innocent, the core of who he is. And you connect with the mother because he drowned because young adults and teens were fucking and they weren't watching. And she went
crazy.
Yeah.
And did a bunch of terrible things, but there was a basis for why. Jason, I've said this before, he's basically a golem. He's
also sent by God. We know that. Well, we discussed that in the last six-pack. He is an agent of God. So going to hell, he was never normal, like they showed him as a child in the last one. And I think Jason is more of a purgatory. Like, hell is what he's in right now, having to come back over and over again and kill people. But we do get demons pulling him down, dragged into hell forever. This is it.
Every bit of him goes down except his mask.
And then later a dog digs up the mask, and the mask is sitting there. In the last shot, what do we see?
We see the hand of Freddy Krueger come up and grab the mask and pull it down.
It's very meaningless, but still kind of exciting just to see Freddy's claw come out and drag that mask down.
And we'll get to this when we talk about Freddy versus Jason. It doesn't even play in there. It doesn't even fucking matter. That was like the one time you could have called back to it. Doesn't fucking matter.
All right, Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. I will say before we give it the rating that the gore effects and everything are actually probably the best in this movie. It did this on a lower budget than Jason Goes to Manhattan.
Amazing.
Which looked like complete fucking horseshit all the way through.
They spent all that money on the fucking cruise ship.
You spent all that money and you're throwing mannequin heads with the base painted red. You can't even have tendrils and blood splattering.
It was bad.
But this one, it manages to do cool looking things with a smaller budget.
Jason's black beating heart looks good.
But the story here is fucking bonkers, and that's why I'm going to be nice and say 2.5 because the effects are great, but this story, like, what the fuck is this story?
I'm giving it a 2.
So that's a 4.5. Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday by Adam Marcus from 93 is in between the movies Friday the 13th Part 3 and Pootie Tang. It's at least as bad as those movies.
If not worse.
If not worse. So we move on. Now it's time to go to space.
In the year 2455, on a routine training mission, a team of students is about to discover a life form frozen in time.
Wow. They're on their way back. Prepare for docking and power up the lab.
You brought him on board?
Everything's under control, ma'am.
What the hell is going on?
Jason Voorhees, that's what's going on.
He's an unstoppable killing machine.
Guys, it's okay. He just wanted his machete back.
How do we get off the ship?
I don't know. Look, we're gonna be all right.
What, are you high?
Uh-oh.
got to get them out of there.
Hey, Slappy!
I think we're finally okay. What the hell is that? You've got to be kidding me.
Oh, wow.
He's been modified. Oh, you think? You guys might want to run. I don't think he's out there.
Why don't you just stick your head out and have a peek?
Jason X from 2001, directed by Jim Isaac, written by Todd Farmer, starring Lexa Doig, Lisa Ryder, Melissa Aid, cameo by David Cronenberg.
That's the best part.
The last of Arcane Hotters, Jason Voorhees, cinematography by Derek Underschultz.
Here we go.
Now, a lot of people think this is the worst one. I think part 8 is probably the worst one, but this, yeah, I can concede here.
This one's bad, but to me, this one has a camp factor that 8 did not have that makes it fun to watch. These people are on a spaceship in the future wearing tank tops.
Yeah.
And glitter. It's hilarious.
Well, first, let's go to the near future, I think around 2008.
Well, so apparently starting in 2008, the government got a hold of Jason and they started trying to kill him. They've been trying to kill him for a couple of years. Every time they kill him, he resurrects.
Wait, don't they, doesn't he end up getting frozen in 2024? Am I remembering correctly?
I think it's like 2012 maybe.
Yeah.
I'll let you check that while I tell this. So they're going to kill him. They can't kill him.
2010.
2010. Okay, so they've been trying to kill him for 2 years straight. He keeps coming back. This woman says, listen, we need to cryogenically freeze him so that he at least cannot get away from us and hurt anyone while we try to figure out how to kill him.
Yeah, David Cronenberg.
David Cronenberg says,
he runs
bitch.
He runs this facility, and they got Jason chained up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But someone, a guard or something, who walks up to him, he gets body switched, and it turns out the dead guard's under the mask and Jason's running around. David Cronenberg gets killed, and this girl, it's Jason and this girl in this room, and then she tricks him into going into the cryo chamber, but then his machete breaks the seal. So he gets frozen. He gets frozen in there, but the broken seal means that it's also spreading into the room. So she gets stabbed, but she is frozen too. And wake up in the year 2455 with some amazing actors. And here we are. They thaw them all out. But the lore of Jason Voorhees has existed well into this century.
There is at least one man who seems to deal in the black market in future space who knows who Jason Voorhees is and knows that he could be worth a lot of money, because there is one dirty guy on the ship who wants to not kill Jason even though he's killing people, because he wants to sell his body because he thinks he can get rich.
We have an android on here with a great, they're an android because of their haircut.
Yeah, it's a terrible wig. It's so bad. The woman is unconscious for a while, and they're like, look, she can be brought back. He's totally dead. He's so dead that we're just going to leave him in a room and not worry about him. They put her on this bed where all these little tiny mechanical ants come out and go into her body and like repair her. They can repair anything. We see when they find him, this guy gets his arm completely cut off, and they do this like cling wrap thing to his arm and his shoulder. And soon as they get back, they just fix him.
The CGI.
There's no reason to die.
You can't really. I'm not really going to shit on the CGI on this, but like there's a period in the late 90s, early 2000s where CGI is looking like really thrown against the wall and kind of rough, like they're still trying to find that perfect spot. And I think it was, like Lord of the Rings was maybe like the best looking thing at this time.
Sure, this did not look super great, but again, it's silly. Just silly enough that you've got like the stoner kid's the one that gets his arm chopped off because he's stupid. The woman who is trying to do tests on Jason is wearing a midriff top and has her hair in like a million braids. It's just so silly. Again, you have a girl seducing someone above her for rank. So they fix the girl. She wakes up, and then they talk to her for so long before they tell her that another body was revived or brought back. And she says,
she's like, it's
no,
Jason,
it's
don't.
Jason.
And they're like, everything's going to be fine. Of course, it's not fine. Jason fucking claws, hacks, slashes his way all over this spaceship. There's one point where the spaceship, like, they don't know where Jason is.
Yeah.
And the pilot got killed.
We got a big problem here. Real goat fuck.
So you see, like, this floating colony base, and it looks okay when you first see it. And then they have, because Jason killed some people, this thing runs through and busts down some buildings, and then it does not look very good anymore.
So bad.
But somehow this craft, their ship busting through the tops of buildings, we see it wreck the buildings, but it somehow destroys the entire colony that they were trying to land on just from it wrecking through buildings. And it doesn't hurt the ship that much. It keeps going, but they look behind and the ship and the whole colony is destroyed.
And you get the line, there's always a girl in these movies who's just freaked out. If we get that far, if they don't die first. The freaked out girl says, I just want to go home. And she gets told, there is no more home.
Some other military guys, they're all being brave, and they do manage to kill Jason somehow. Or I think he gets cut up or something, but he gets locked in this room that is makes you into a cyborg or some shit, right? And it puts him together.
It's the room that fixed
right,
her.
It
goes in and heals him.
The robot ants.
Yeah, robot ants heal him, and he gets up. And at this point, the guy who made the android has been putting a lot of leather on her. She looks like a fucking S&M woman. She's coming out with like knives to throw and guns to shoot.
She manages to fuck him up.
She does.
This is the closest we got to Aeon Flux at this point.
He cuts her head off.
Yeah. But she's an android. But Jason comes back, and he's like Dragon Ball Z. He's a new, improved version. He's a giant cyborg.
You guys might want to run.
His hockey mask is now like a metal mask. The reason that this movie is better than Part 8 is because of this one scene where they do a hologram and they make him think he's at Crystal Lake.
Yes!
And then there's these like young adults having sex, being nude.
Hey, you want a beer?
Or do you want to smoke some pot?
Or we can have premarital sex.
And then Jason keeps bashing them and like killing them, but they're not real, so they're like laughing.
He's throwing the sleeping bag around.
Yeah,
so good.
He's bashing them with the sleeping bag, and you hear them like giggling and shit.
That is amazing.
It is legitimately funny and a nice callback to the classic nature of it.
Absolutely. I will again say these last 3 movies have ended with not just a final girl. You getting them in pairs now. And first it was a guy and a girl. Then it was another guy and a guy and a girl and a baby. And now we've got a guy and a girl and a head of a android.
Well, Jason dies because this brave soldier goes off the ship and fights them in gravity, and they plummet towards a planet. Earth 2 is what they've been trying to get to. They somehow managed to get there, and they supposedly burn up in the atmosphere, and you see teenagers looking to the sky, and it darts across the sky, and then they're like, it landed in the lake. It was like, that looked like it was fucking over Canada or something, not from where you were at.
So far away from them.
And then they go to investigate and of course, if there's a finger left, Jason's probably going to grow from it, I guess.
It's Earth 2, right? So it's probably like Diamond Lake.
Jason X, infamously bad, but not as bad as 8 in my opinion. I'm going to give it a 0.75.
I'm going to give it a 1.
Okay, a 1.75. Jason X, directed by Todd Farmer from 2001, is in between the movies I Am Sam and Rebel Moon Part 1, the Zack Snyder movie. It's at least as bad as those movies, if not worse. And so we've got Jason X and Part 8 as F tier in the franchise. So it does get a little better here as we go to Freddy versus Jason.
my nightmare.
We're not safe awake or asleep.
Why won't you die? Freddy versus Jason.
Place your bets.
Freddy vs. Jason from 2003, directed by Ronnie Yu, written by Damian Shannon and Mark Swift, starring Monica Keena, Kelly Rowland from Destiny's Child, Jason Ritter, so we got a little bit more famous people here, Ken Kersinger as Jason Voorhees, and Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. Now, I remember at this time, I was a little out of I watched a lot of this when I was a kid, but at this point, I was not going to rush to see Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street movies. But when I saw that Freddy was going to be fighting Jason in a movie back in 2003, I definitely was on board for that. And I remember watching that then. And this movie is maybe, we'll see what the next one is, but maybe one of the better reviewed ones in this block, I'm going to predict. Because there is, crazy story stuff that happens with any Freddy Krueger joint, but this movie does deliver on its promise of Freddy Krueger versus Jason Voorhees, and it looks good, and it's actually a lot of fun.
It is so much fun.
And this is the movie with the infamous scene where Kelly Rowland calls Freddy Krueger the F slur.
So you're the one everyone's afraid of? Tell me something. What kind of faggot runs around in a Christmas sweater?
Yes.
And he's like,
how sweet. Dark meat.
For one reason or another, from the rules of his crazy ass movies, people do not remember who he is, and he needs fear to stoke the fires to give him power. So he does somehow have the ability to resurrect Jason Voorhees, and he pretends to be his mother.
My special boy. Do you know what your gift is? No matter what they do to you, you cannot die. You can never die.
Who is the original actor from the first one, too, which is great.
Yeah, I don't remember how Jason came up, but yeah, Freddy appears as the mother and says,
the time has come to wake up. Mommy has something she wants you to do. I need you to go to Elm Street. The children have been very bad on Elm Street.
Jason, you gotta go to Elm Street. The kids on Elm Street, they're being so bad. Mm-hmm. You have to go and you have to punish them. And so he goes, and Freddy's so smart. He actually also says that he found Mrs. Voorhees in hell.
Yeah.
And that's how he was able to become her. He knows that if killings start happening on Elm Street, everyone will think that it's Freddy, and they will start talking about him again. When we go there and Jason starts killing, we find out very quickly that the reason no one remembers who Freddy is because there is a mental institution where the town has put all of the teenagers who remembered him, who dreamt about him, couple years ago, and they've drugged them with this drug that makes you not dream. So you cannot dream. So they've convinced them that it's not real.
You need to dream. You'd be mentally ill after a point. It's part of your REM, but yeah.
The flaw in this story is these parents do remember him, and they're so scared of him that they're drugging their children. So the fear is there, but he needs to be able to come out of the dreams. And he's not strong enough to do that until there's enough fear.
Yeah, our final girl is Lori Campbell, and he tries to attack her. Freddy tries to attack her with this cool shadow effect, but it doesn't kill her. He's just it goes through her. It scares the fuck out of her, but it's just, he's not strong enough at that point. So Freddy has to figure it out. And he's kind of jealous of Jason a little bit too, because as soon as Freddy is able to manifest properly, then he's completely like, hey, don't kill these kids.
Yeah.
These are my kills.
There's one part where Jason kills some kids and he's like, those were my teenagers. Like, he's very mad. Jason Ritter and his little friend escape from the mental hospital because he was in love with Lori. He thinks he's in the mental hospital because
there's a lot of backstory story that we don't see that we are forced to go along with.
But all it is that he says that Lori's father killed her mother, that he saw it.
Yeah.
And so they haven't seen each other for 4 years. So he comes to make sure that she's okay. The dad obviously wants him to get away. And
it's, the thing where we got to stay awake. We got to stay awake. Well, they go to a party out in a cornfield and Jason shows up and just fucking goes ape shit on this party, just killing people. Kills a dude that's like going to date rape one of our friends in the movie. So that guy gets killed, but the other girl gets killed too. And so that's when we start to see Freddy's jealousy. And so he's like, all right, these are my kids. So it goes along, and I forget how it all plays out properly. But they know that there's a guy running around, Jason Voorhees, who they learn about. But they also know that Freddy is now able to be in the world,
yes,
and kill people. So Lori has a plan to pull Freddy from Dreamworld into reality and pit him against Jason. It's a risky ass plan.
So they have to bait Jason to come to where they are.
Yeah, and I think Jason kills a couple more people in this process.
He does.
So they manage to pull Freddy in just in time before Jason kills the rest of them. And that's when we get our big blowout battle. And we also have a battle beforehand, too. We have 2 fights where they're in Dreamworld, and we have to go with the fact that Jason dreams.
Not my arm!
I mean, I guess if a spider's dream,
Because
I
the
guess
kids-
Jason can dream.
Because the kids drug him to make him sleep so they can take him to where
Right.
they're going to wake up
Because
Freddy.
that drug manages to knock a ghoul out.
It's a different, so there's one drug that knocks you out and there's another drug that makes you not dream. So they gave him the knock you out one.
So sure enough, Freddy and Jason get in a big knockout, drag out fight, and Freddy's trying to also kill other people too, but Jason is in the way. And it's actually a really cool fight. Like, it's what sold you the ticket, right? And it does actually deliver.
Delivers,
It's
yeah.
a lot of fun. Kelly Rowland does get killed. Jason manages to punch Freddy through his torso, and
Yes.
Freddy plunges the machete into him, and he rips Freddy's arms off, and there's a dock fire, and there's an explosion that throws Freddy and Jason into the lake.
Are they
And
back at Crystal Lake?
I think they do.
That's what they drove in the van while he was
Right.
asleep. They drove to Crystal Lake.
Freddy is going to kill them. He survives, but Jason comes up and stabs Freddy through the chest with his own gloved hand, and it looks like they're defeated. The day is saved from both of them, but then Jason comes out of the water again because not enough really happened to him. But when he comes out of the water, he's holding Freddy's head, and Freddy winks or something.
He winks, yeah.
So of course they're both not dead. I'm really surprised that we didn't get a sequel here to this movie, because this movie did make some bank, cost $30 million and made $116 million, but I think the Friday the 13th franchise is apparently split between Paramount and New Line for whatever weird fucking reason. So Freddy versus Jason, we're gonna give it 1 through 5 each. The story is like a little wild, but this movie is actually fun as hell. I'm gonna give it a 3.25.
I'm giving it a 3.
And there you go, at a 6.25. Will this be the highest rated in our little franchise here on the back half? Freddy vs. Jason gets a B-, directed by Ronnie Yu from 2003. It's in between the movies It Lives Again and Creature from the Black Lagoon. So, it's at least as good as those movies, at least as fun as those movies, if not more so.
Creature's better than that.
It might be. You're probably right. But do you want to talk about that more, or do you want to move on?
I want to move on.
Did you know a young boy drowned here? He was my son. And today is his birthday.
You won't believe my parents' cabin.
Here we are. Pretty nice, huh? Just get your ass to the door and don't ready?
I'm not from around here, but I'm looking for my sister. She's gone missing. Have you seen her?
She ain't missing. She's dead. People go missing around here, they're gone for good.
There's something out there. We gotta get out of here. Come on, you guys. Oh my god.
This place is called Camp Crystal Lake.
Open up! Help! We got the guy killing everybody!
His name was Jason, and today is his birthday.
Friday the 13th from 2009, directed by Marc NIspel, written by Damian Shannon and Mark Swift, the same guys who wrote Freddy vs. Jason, starring Jared Padalecki, Danielle Panabaker, amongst others, Aaron Yu, Nana Visitor, Caleb Gus, Derek Mears as Jason Voorhees, and this is co-produced by Michael Bay. Cinematography by Daniel C. Pearl. I think my biggest problems of the movie are when it starts. We got Mrs. Voorhees.
Same. I hate the beginning.
We're revisiting the Mrs. Voorhees killing the counselors, and Jason has died, but it doesn't seem clear because she explained that she's killing them because they let her boy drown. But Jason has already come back, and as the deformed little boy is watching his mother from the forest or something kill these camp counselors. And then, just like in the first one, Mrs. Voorhees gets her head chopped off, and Jason witnessed his mother getting her head chopped off. The very first movie implies that it was like the death of Mrs. Voorhees was a part of why Jason came back in the first place. And this one implies that Jason came back before and just witnessed it all. I have to admit that my expectations for this were rock fucking bottom. It was better than I thought it was going to be.
I agree with that.
And I would actually say, to compliment this one, I mean, other movies from other franchises have great final girls. I won't say it's like stellar in that sense, but the general characterization of all the young people we get, it's like the first 4 movies are condensed in this movie.
Yeah, it is.
And so we get multiple groups getting killed until we get to the Jared Padalecki, who is reprising the role of the guy from 3 or 4 who was coming back to find his sister.
The guy in 3 or 4 was coming back to kill Jason because he knew Jason had killed his sister. This guy, his sister's been missing for 6 weeks, and he doesn't believe that she's dead because there's no body, and so he is looking for her.
With the group in which the sister gets abducted from, there's a nerd character there, but he's actually really well done because he's a little more modern, because nerd things, I guess, are hotter now. So he was like, you could tell he was nerdy, but he wasn't like, you know, it seemed like the classic nerd, like Revenge of the Nerds. It's just like a specific form of autism. It didn't really necessarily represent people who like nerdy shit across the board. But this guy represented a more specific type. Oh, and they showed up to find weed because they had heard that there was a weed.
And he had
crop.
a GPS.
But of course, that's when we see Jason, who seems to be a lot leaner and a little faster, wipe these people out. And we see him...
Got a bunch of boobies.
And we see him go for the final girl. I can't remember her name. We should do a Mr. Skin corner for the show.
Sure. He has a run-in with this group, and there's a alpha male who's in charge. He thinks he's in charge, and they're going to his dad's cabin where he doesn't want them to fuck anything up. And he kicks Jordan... what's his name? Our main guy, Jared Padalecki, kicks him out a couple of times. And
our final girl is Jenna Montgomery.
And so Jenna feels sorry for him because she knows...
Well, no, Whitney Miller is the final girl. She gets abducted from the first group. We get this guy, Aaron Yu, plays this character called Chewie. He's the stoner character. But again, he's a nice little character, like the way he acts and the level of humor.
Shoot the boot! Shoot the boot!
Fuck that, I'm not drinking out of your sweaty ass sneaker. You're not wearing socks, dude.
You lost 10 in a row. Shoot the boot.
My house, my rules, I'm not drinking that shit.
Fine. Oh, no. To all the felching?
No.
Welching?
Yes.
Pussies of the world!
Oh, disgusting.
I gotta give this movie credit for making the extended cast. Like, that one dude's a huge dick, but he's supposed to be. You're supposed to hate his fucking guts.
Yeah. He's great at it.
But the extended cast and the way they behave is actually probably the most realistic, and it feels genuinely modern.
Yeah.
But Jason here, Jared Padalecki hooks up with Jenna to, not literally, but she's very sympathetic to him because her friend's super rude to him. So they go out to explore the abandoned parts of Camp Crystal Lake to see if they can find anything on the missing.
And they do find the GPS, the busted GPS on the way, but that's it. But then they find a house that someone has obviously been living in, and there is a bed with the name Jason carved on the headboard.
Padalecki knocks on this one house, and an elderly person comes and says, "You better leave him alone. He just wants to be left alone."
We all do. We all just want to be left alone.
If your Whitney's already dead, already tells. So that's the big clue for Mr. Clay Miller, as played by Jared Padalecki. That he's in the right area for something happening to her sister.
And he's right that something's being covered up.
Yeah, so people are dying and I think one complaint I do have about this movie, and it's a complaint that was common in this era of horror, in which everything seems a little too dark.
Yes.
Like, I'm sitting there watching this, like, are my eyes just shit, or is everything just too blurry? And also, this is the decade that had so many remakes, and this is no exception. And I looked it up, and this year, the 2000s averaged 19 remakes every year, with one year being like 34 remakes. But let's talk about Jason here. He's a little different. He plans a lot better. He's got an underground enclave in which he keeps Whitney when we discover that she's still alive.
Because she looks like his mother. They make a comment about that at the beginning, because when she and her boyfriend are in that house, they actually are going to have sex in that house.
And I think Jenna ends up finding the mother's head that Jason is stored
Yes,
in the
because
house.
they are like, it looks like a doll. And they reach in and pull it out, and it's the dead mother's house with a head with like really long hair. So he's kept her. He's not communicating with her, but she's alive. And eventually the kids fall through the floor, and they hear some screaming, and all this crazy shit happens.
Whitney, but poor Jenna ends up getting killed as Jason's closing in.
Oh, fuck!
It seems weird to see him plan so well, because we know he's still like a ghoul, an undead ghoul, but he just seems a little more prepared in this one, and a little faster, and a little leaner. And
he moves much faster.
And you can see like his neck is warped too. Like there's little subtle things they do with him. And I actually thought he looked really good for what it was. But they do end up, Clay and Whitney end up luring Jason into a barn where he gets hooked into a chain that's like grinding, like grind shit.
Jason! Say hi to Mommy. In hell!
grinds his head up. And also, we do get burlap sack Jason before he finds a hockey mask in an attic.
I like that part.
So everything it is like a nice homage to the earlier movies here. But one thing that is weird is that Clay and Whitney, they take the time to dump the body into the lake, Jason's body.
Yeah, there's a bunch of dead people all around, and they don't keep the murderer for everyone for the
way
cops.
You're doing that might make it look like you killed a bunch of people. Like, you might want to just call the police. But Jason pops out of the water for the wooden dock and grabs Whitney. It's not as cool as the original Jason one. But
it happens.
But you can kind of see it coming.
There was a moment in his underground lair where Whitney's trying to get out on her own first, and she does, but he catches her and puts her back. But she opens this door, and it's just dead bodies.
Yeah.
And she has to walk through the dead bodies to get out.
This is not bad.
It's not bad, but what I dislike about it is not a remake. It is not a remake. They're just using the same name in the future, like the Halloweens did that were new. Like it's rebooting, but it's not the same story. They're not at the camp.
What's the difference?
Isn't a remake we're going to tell the same story?
Not exactly. It doesn't have to be an exact same story.
I just consider
like a
this another movie in the franchise.
I think it means the same thing.
Okay, well, it doesn't in my mind.
Because are you thinking like a remake's got to follow the exact same beats?
Not exactly, but this movie is nothing like the first movie, aside from the fact that there's Jason.
No, that's not true. It's just a very condensed version of multiple movies. It changes things because it's condensing all those movies. But to say it's nothing like them, the same principal ideas are still there. So it's not nothing like it. It's got Mrs. Voorhees.
Well, it's another Jason
Her head
movie.
gets cut off. He walks around in the burlap sack like two. He's got the kid looking for his sister.
It's paying homage, but it's not a remake.
Again, I don't know what the difference is.
I think a remake is, I'm going to make this movie again. That's not what this is. This is another new story. New characters, different setting. I mean, it's still the lake, but this house is different.
But the continuity, I mean...
I don't care about the continuity. It's everywhere on this. It doesn't matter. There's no continuity.
Okay. So it's a reboot.
I would say it's a reboot. And I did think it was really fun. I thought, beside from it being dark, there were some really good moments.
Yeah. You can't really see enough of the cool stuff. The aftermath, the tone works, but yeah, it's too dark. I felt like I couldn't see shit at parts.
I want to give it, it's definitely above mid. I think I would give it a little bit higher. If not for that first scene, that really made me mad.
It really seems like if you're going to reimagine Jason coming back, imagine like the way they did that. Like, imagine the mother gets her head cut off, right? And then in the moonlight of the lake, after that moment, you see like a silhouette come up. Like there seem like there's so many ideas and it's just bizarre that the movie seems to work well enough in other senses, but seems to just bum rush it. This concept right here.
Yeah. Well, and the kids who are camping, who are the first group that get murdered, they talk about him. Just fucking do a scary story at the fire to tell everybody that the mom's head got chopped off. I don't know. It just seemed like it was doing a lot.
1 through 5 each combined for best out of 10. I think this falls to about a 3 for me.
A 3.25.
I almost gave it that, but I don't think it had the pure fun of Freddy vs. Jason, which I did give it to. But that's interesting that we kind of flipped a little bit on that. It makes sense to me. It's a 6.25. It tied with Freddy vs. Jason, so the highest we got here was a B-. Friday the 13th, the Marc NIspel remake or reboot, you mean? Is it reboot?
Yeah.
From 2009, in between Freddy vs. Jason and It Lives Again. That does it. We got the rest of the Friday the 13th series in the bag. My preferred slasher is joining us to finish off the episode. Michael Myers.
I think there should be a Michael versus Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, you really captured Michael Myers' voice perfectly. I did want Michael Myers to pop up on Freddy vs. But I knew he didn't. It may not make much difference, but when you got that on your head, get as close to that mic as you possibly can.
Like this?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, great.
But I guess we're wrapping it up anyway. I heard that Friday the 13th is on the docket to be, in your words, rebooted again. All of these movies made money. Like, all of them. Even the shittiest ass ones made money.
Yeah, because they're fun to see in the theater.
Yeah, their horror still can pull it in. As down bad as going to the theaters seems lately, it does seem like horrors are the ones that make the surprising box office turns still. But more Friday the 13th down the road? We'll see. I think we've peaked. I can't imagine it would ever be better than the first two.
Nah.
And we had a nice accumulation in Freddy vs. Jason. It is still overall a pretty mid-ass franchise. And we're going to get back into our holiday selections this month as we approach the end of the year. All the holiday selections the most of which Angela selected for December.
I sure did.
So you can blame her if there's anything you hate. All right. But that said, let's get out of here and say goodbye to the Friday the 13th franchise. Check the show notes for links to other places to find us. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us what your favorite of the franchise is or what your least favorite is.
Death to all teenagers.
Warn your friends. Warn everyone.